At 4:47 in the morning, 9 miles southeast of Keshem Island, the USS Pioneer operates where no other vessel in the United States Navy can function. Her wooden hull cuts through dark waters just 3 miles from the Iranian coastline, sweeping for mines in a corridor that has become the world's most dangerous shipping lane. The captain has maintained position inside Iran's territorial boundary for 19 minutes, unaware that 18,000 feet above him, a Mosher drone circles with mechanical precision, transmitting his exact coordinates to coastal batteries in real time. 200 Iranian mines wait in the darkness ahead, each one a patient predator, listening for the magnetic or acoustic signature of passing ships. Pioneer's hull-mounted sonar paints the first contact at 4:51, a Mahan 3 influence mine suspended 60 feet below the surface on a tethered cable. 220 kilograms of high explosive hang in the water column like a deaf bouncer at a nightclub entrance, silent until something loud and metallic triggers its sensors, and then it doesn't hesitate. The captain logs the contact and continues his methodical sweep, racing against time with 6 hours of remaining daylight and 6 nautical miles of shipping lane to clear before the window closes. Behind him in the Gulf of Oman, a very large crude carrier sits at anchor, nearly a quarter-mile of double-hulled steel containing 2 million barrels of oil, bleeding $80,000 per day in demurrage fees, while war risk premiums drive insurance costs through the ceiling. Minutes later, Pioneer's sonar operator identifies another contact 50 feet down that displays wrong geometry for a mine, too elongated and flat for a tethered spherical weapon, probably a shipping container lost during a Shamal storm years earlier. He removes it from the target queue and maintains his search pattern, understanding that clearing the Strait of Hormuz resembles sorting through a dumpster while blindfolded, except some of the debris contains live explosives and there's no putting anything back once you've disturbed it. 300 yards away, Roadrunner 6-4 pulses blue-green laser light through the water column from an MH-60S Seahawk helicopter, its airborne laser mine detection system pod scanning the surface layer with surgical precision. The ALMDS can only penetrate the top 30 feet of seawater. Anything deeper remains invisible to its sensors. The Archerfish torpedo slung beneath the starboard pylon stays on its rail, waiting for a target shallow enough to engage. 4 different platforms operate with 4 distinct blind spots, each covering overlapping sectors while missing critical zones. Pioneer can map the Gulf floor down to 100 meters, but cannot distinguish between mines and debris without visual confirmation. She's a 34-year-old wooden vessel the Navy commissioned when the Cold War still dominated strategic thinking, irreplaceable not because she represents the pinnacle of technology, but because she remains the only ship capable of operating in these shallow, mine-infested waters. Roadrunner 6-4 can classify a floating mine in under 2 seconds, but cannot penetrate below the thermocline with its laser system. USS Tulsa patrols the deep water channels with an AQS-20C towed sonar array the size of a compact car, but draws too much water to approach the shallows where Iran has concentrated its mining efforts. Anything buried beneath Gulf floor sediment remains invisible until human divers descend with their hands to conduct physical identification. Some of those contacts contain 220 kilograms of underwater high explosive, and the engineer who planted them watches the clearance operation from 3 miles away through electronic eyes. Above Pioneer, the Mohair drone maintains its orbit and feeds targeting data to every coastal defense battery on Keshem Island, functioning like a spotter on a balcony, shouting coordinates to artillery positions. Pioneer's radar warning receiver flickers to life intermittently as a Gadir coastal search radar runs brief pulses, 2 seconds active, followed by 5 seconds dark, then 2 seconds active again. The Iranian operator already possesses the drone's targeting feed. He's simply reminding the American task group of his presence through electronic signature, which represents the radar equivalent of leaving a passive-aggressive note on someone's door. Helpful information delivery with an underlying message about territorial awareness. 50 nautical miles south of Pioneer's position off the Omani coast, an aircraft designated Pelican 2-1 crosses the operating area at 28,000 feet on a flight plan, filed as routine electronic surveillance. She has maintained station since 3:15 in the morning, and Iranian radar operators have tagged her as a P-8 Poseidon, conducting standard listening operations, nothing requiring immediate countermeasures or transmission shutdown protocols. Nobody on the Iranian side pays the aircraft significant attention, a critical oversight that will reshape the morning's tactical equation. By 5:41, Pioneer's sonar team has classified 4 of 11 contacts as debris, marked 1 genuine mine for Seafox neutralization, and designated 3 additional targets for Roadrunner 6-4 engagement. The captain maintains 7 knots through the shallow water and contemplates the mines his sensors haven't detected yet, while behind him, Tulsa's sonar operator flags the first bottom mine in the deeper shipping channel. Dawn hasn't broken, and every time the Gadir radar transmits, someone unmentioned in Iranian operational planning records the frequency signature for future reference. At 6:12, 3 events unfold within 90 seconds that demonstrate the lethal choreography of modern mine warfare. Roadrunner 6-4 descends to 100 feet above the surface chop and releases an archer fish from its starboard pylon, the remote-controlled torpedo screaming toward the Mahan 3 mine Pioneer, identified 40 minutes earlier. The weapon that never detected the approaching threat was neutralized by 7 pounds of shaped charge delivered through a fiber-optic control cable, operated by a technician in the helicopter's cabin over communications links impossible to jam because they consist of physical copper wire connecting platform and weapon. Think of it as a drone designed to fly directly into a bomb, no Wi-Fi vulnerabilities, no signal susceptible to electronic interference, just metal and explosives guided by human hands. The archer fish costs approximately $200,000, while the mine it just eliminated was threatening a tanker hauling $180 million in crude oil, the kind of return on investment that would impress hedge fund managers with an operational range of 1 kilometer, roughly the distance from the White House to the Washington Monument. The pressure wave rolls through the water column and impacts Pioneer's oak hull seconds later. Before the reverberations clear, Pioneer's Seafox remotely operated vehicle slides into the water through the stern well. The tethered ROV crawls down the slope toward a second Mahan 3 mine on 3,000 feet of umbilical cable, centers its crosshairs on the weapon's sensor dome, and detonates its shaped charge payload. 2 mines eliminated with no communications disruption, no electronic jamming attempts, nothing for Iranian technicians to interfere with electronically. The Seafox predates most of Pioneer's crew by several years, 85 pounds of hardware, carrying a 3-pound shaped charge, operated through an umbilical cable because its design originates from an era before reliable wireless communications. Imagine a remote-controlled vehicle on a 3,000-foot extension cord, similar to children's toys, except this device swims down to Iranian mines and destroys them through direct contact, while the Iranian engineer who designed the Mahan 3 specifically built his weapons to defeat modern minesweeping technology. The Sea Fox may not represent modern engineering, but it's neutralizing his mines regardless of their sophisticated design. 11 miles south, Tulsa's unmanned surface vehicle, a robotic boat the Navy deploys into minefields to avoid risking American personnel, drags a magnetic acoustic sweep rig at 14 knots while mimicking the signature of a 300,000-ton crude carrier passing overhead. 3 Mahan 7 bottom mines detect the false signature, decide a massive tanker is transiting above their positions, and detonate into empty water within 90 seconds. 3 weapons containing 485 pounds of high explosive each, fooled by an electronic decoy call. 5 mines eliminated in 90 seconds, but from the shoreline above Keshem, the Gadir search radar energizes to full power for the first time this morning, maintains contact with the American task group for 30 seconds, then shuts down completely. Standard missile battery procedures require a firing solution before launch, beginning with search radar illumination long enough to establish bearing, range, and target speed. 30 seconds provides sufficient data for all 3 parameters. The Noor represents Iran's reverse-engineered version of the Chinese C-802 anti-ship missile, copied technology with modified components, 1,500 pounds of missile traveling at Mach 0.9 with a 363-pound warhead guided by an active radar seeker that broadcasts into the target area and locks onto whatever signal returns. Picture a Volkswagen Beetle moving at 680 miles per hour, 3 feet above the water surface, covering the range from Keshem to Pioneer's position, approximately 3.5 miles, in roughly 30 seconds, about the distance from downtown Denver to the foothills. The Iranian commander hasn't activated his fire control radar yet, the final step before missile launch. He's observing Pioneer through electronic surveillance and calculating whether a wooden minesweeper 3 miles from his coastline justifies the political consequences of engagement. Every time he illuminates his Qadir radar, someone is recording the transmission characteristics, though he remains unaware of this intelligence collection. The next sonar contact appears at 6:48, another Mahan 3 in 4 meters of water, shallow even by Pioneer's operational standards. The captain guides the Avenger-class minesweeper inside the 3-mile territorial limit to engage the target. 3.5 miles represents the edge of the operational envelope. 3 miles places him definitively inside Iranian territorial waters, a fact he understands completely, as does the Iranian commander who illuminates his search radar for the second time in 20 minutes and maintains the beam for 45 seconds. Roadrunner 6-4 orbits at 700 feet, identifies the Mahan 3's shadow through surface glare, and releases another Archerfish torpedo. The 6th mine comes off the target board while the coastal radar shuts down again. Pioneer reverses the Avenger out of the 3-mile line at 5 knots, a wooden ship moving at brisk walking pace while withdrawing from the engagement envelope of a 165-kilogram warhead traveling at Mach 0.9. The captain makes a notation that he's now experiencing the type of operational environment his Navy recruiter neglected to mention during enlistment discussions. Melind Maisum Pranbirosa. At 7:11, 4 miles north of Pioneer's position, the dust arrives with characteristic Gulf ferocity. A shamal represents the Persian Gulf's meteorological specialty, a dry northwesterly wind that collects vast quantities of sand and propels it downwind at 40 knots. Visibility plummets from 12 miles to 1 mile in under 10 minutes, transforming the operational environment completely. Roadrunner 64's ALMDS operator watches her display deteriorate from clean laser returns to scattered interference to complete signal loss. The pod continues firing laser pulses, but coherent returns cease entirely due to atmospheric particulate density. Roadrunner 64 turns toward USS Tulsa and calls for immediate recovery, leaving a cluster of 6 Mahan 3 mines in the northern shallow area. Contacts the helicopter was assigned to service, now transferred back to Pioneer's responsibility. The Avenger now provides protection for a $40 million helicopter using a 34-year-old wooden hull, 1 Seafox vehicle, and 2 hours of remaining daylight before the tanker transit window closes permanently. The Iranian commander on the coastline observes visibility decreasing as well, understanding that atmospheric conditions now favor his defensive position. Pioneer's captain makes his decision at 7:24. The Avenger must advance to 3.1 miles from the Iranian coast to service the contact's Roadrunner 64 abandoned when the Shamal arrived. That distance places Pioneer inside the engagement range of every Noor battery on Keshem Island, with no air cover available for the duration of the dust storm. If Pioneer absorbs a Noor missile hit inside the 3-mile line, the Avenger transforms into floating debris, and the tasked group loses the only shallow water minesweeper in theater for 6 weeks minimum. The Marshall Islands Very Large Crude Carrier, 298 meters of double-hulled steel containing 2 million barrels of oil, remains at anchor another week, accumulating 2% war risk premiums, while dozens of additional tankers reroute around the Cape of Good Hope at $1 million per voyage. The captain advances deeper into Iranian territorial waters regardless. USS Jack H. Lucas follows him to the 4.2-mile line, her flat hexagonal Spy-6 radar panels on the superstructure running in passive mode, right now representing a counter-threat to Iranian missile batteries. The tactical question isn't whether the Iranian commander can develop a firing solution on Pioneer, it's whether he believes Lucas can place a missile in his launcher before his own weapon clears the rail. At 8:12, the E-2D Hawkeye calls the threat on strike common frequency, coastal radar spike bearing 040, Noor fire control radar maintaining illumination. The fire control beam represents the final step before missile launch, and Lucas's threat warning console displays the pulse characteristics on the Combat Information Center's tactical display. Everyone from the tactical action officer to the radar operator understands the implications of the next 30 seconds. Fire control radar doesn't remain active unless the operator intends immediate employment, as it draws high-speed anti-radiation missiles within 90 seconds of activation. Illuminating fire control radar represents the electronic equivalent of using someone's first, middle, and last name during an argument. Everyone knows exactly what follows next, and evasive action won't help. Lucas's captain doesn't hesitate. His Spy-6 radar energizes to full radiated power and directs the main beam onto the Iranian launcher position. The destroyer now illuminates the Noor battery with the same intensity the Noor battery applies to Pioneer, electronic mutual assured destruction at tactical range. The Spy-6 consists of 37 active gallium nitride panels functioning as a surveillance camera capable of reading license plates from 3 states away, tracking a baseball at 165 miles and consuming enough electricity to power a Texas subdivision. Behind the radar array, Lucas magazines contain SM-6 missiles, 3,000 pounds each, Mach 3.5 terminal velocity, 140-pound warheads with 240-mile range, covering 1 mile every second and a half. By the time the Iranian operator finishes saying incoming, the missile has already passed his position. Lucas carries nearly 100 vertical launch system cells, while the Noor battery maintains 2 reloads per launcher, a mathematics problem with only one solution. The Iranian operator reads his own threat warning receiver and comprehends 3 facts simultaneously. Lucas has geolocated his launcher. SM-6 missiles can reach his position in under 4 minutes, and Lucas has decided against firing first, which represents professional courtesy that won't extend to a second engagement. Then his threat display produces a reading it has never generated before. Every radar system he depends upon, his own Gadir search radar, the coastal early warning network, and the battery's fire control illuminator, goes offline across his screen simultaneously, not jammed or spoofed, but actually disconnected from the network. Somewhere in a concrete revetment, an Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps duty officer screams into a telephone because every commander along the coast has received identical orders from Tehran: cease all transmissions immediately. The Reason orbits at 28,000 feet, 50 nautical miles south, where she has maintained station since 3:15 this morning. Pelican 2-1 is not a P-8 Poseidon conducting routine listening operations. She is an EA-18G Growler flying under a call sign the Iranians misidentified throughout the morning, carrying a complete ALQ-218 signals intelligence suite, and she has spent 5 hours conducting operations more dangerous than electronic jamming. She has been recording everything. Every time the Gadir radar energized to full power to remind Pioneer of its presence, the Growler documented the frequency, pulse repetition rate, operator signature, Mohair drone uplinks, and every cross-network handoff between Bandar Abbas and Abu Musa Island. The Iranian commander believed he was demonstrating resolve through electronic posturing. What he actually accomplished was reading the entire Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps coastal air defense network into an American database, one transmission at a time, like a poker player who flashes his cards every time he bluffs, except the opponent across the table possesses photographic memory and detailed documentation. When Lucas's Spy-6 radar went active, Pelican 2-1 transmitted on 3 frequencies the Iranians didn't realize the Americans had mapped, not to jam Iranian communications, but to announce American presence. Every radar operator on the Keshem coast simultaneously observed an American emitter broadcasting on their own network's command channel. The message clear and unambiguous: "We're inside your system. We've been inside your system all morning, and we can terminate your operations at will." The fire control pulse terminates mid-cycle, and somewhere on Keshem Island, an Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps commander runs the same arithmetic every Iranian missile commander has calculated for 8 weeks, then performs a second calculation his predecessors never required. A 165-kilogram warhead against a wooden minesweeper isn't worth the Arleigh Burke-class destroyer that will arrive on his battery at Mach 3.5 while his launch plume is still cooling. And it's definitely not worth discovering what else the Americans have penetrated during the morning's operations. The Iranians disengage first, nobody fires. Pioneer completes the cluster by 9:03. 6 additional Mahan 3 mines come off the target board, and the captain withdraws the Avenger outside the 3-mile line for the second time this morning. At 9:27, Racket 5-1 enters the water. 4 explosive ordnance disposal divers from USS Michael Murphy's rigid-hulled inflatable boat investigating a contact the Kingfish unmanned underwater vehicle couldn't classify through sonar alone. 42 feet of salt water, mixed gas breathing apparatus, and umbilical hoses carrying air and communications represent technology that hasn't been substantially improved in 80 years. An unmanned underwater vehicle can locate the contact, sonar can map its dimensions, a helicopter can mark the coordinates, but when the return signature suggests maybe mine, maybe anchor chain, maybe neither, the only definitive identification method requires sending a human down with his hands. The robots accomplish 90% of the mission. The final 10% remains a person in a wetsuit with outstretched hands, hoping the object he's about to touch isn't the thing that ruins his day permanently. At 35 feet, the sediment clears enough for the diver to observe the shape clearly. Metallic cylinder half buried in Gulf floor sand. He confirms visual identification of a Mahan 7 mine, attaches magnetic pads to the casing, removes the safety pin, sets the timer, and swims back at the pace of someone who has performed this procedure enough times to understand that swimming faster doesn't reduce the explosive yield. 8 minutes later, a pressure wave erupts 60 meters behind the inflatable boat, and by 12:47, the Shamal breaks and visibility opens back to operational parameters. Roadrunner 6-4 relaunches with a fresh ALMDS pod, 23 mines neutralized, more than the entire Avenger-class fleet serviced during the peak of the 1987 tanker war. Pioneer's captain has been on the bridge for 13 hours. His wife believes he maintains a desk job in Bahrain, and he's going to let her continue believing that fiction. The final stretch of shipping lanes still contains 6 contacts Roadrunner 6-4 abandoned when the dust storm arrived. He points Pioneer back inside the 3-mile line, while Iranian search radars on the coast remain dark, at least for now. The final 6 contacts are eliminated in 90 minutes. Pioneer makes 3 passes through the northern shallow stretch, each transit inside 3 miles of the Iranian coastline, while Lucas shadows at 4 miles. The Iranian search radar stays offline. Nobody on the coast is eager to transmit on frequencies the Americans may or may not already control. Roadrunner 6-4 fires Archerfish torpedoes on contacts the Avenger cannot approach closely enough to service, and by 14:17, the last Mahan 3 on the target queue erupts in a pressure column behind Pioneer's stern. The captain guides the Avenger out of the engagement envelope and turns eastward toward open water, but at 14:28, 4 fast-moving returns paint on Lucas' scope out of Bandar Abbas, bearing 170, closing at 52 knots. Hakan-class Iranian fast attack boats, 17 meters long, 14 tons displacement, crewed by 3 personnel, mounting Kosar anti-ship missiles on the forward deck. A Kosar weighs 220 pounds, travels at Mach 0.8 with 13-mile range and a 65-pound warhead capable of opening a frigate's hull like a can opener. Iran mounts these weapons on 17-meter motorboats with no armor protection. $400,000 speedboats carrying warheads, now closing on a $2.4 billion destroyer. The kind of cost ratio that keeps Pentagon accountants awake at night and Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps commanders very interested in tactical possibilities. Pioneer's captain watches the radar returns and comprehends exactly what the Revolutionary Guard Corps is attempting. The Noor batteries failed this morning. The radar network got mapped and penetrated. Now the Revolutionary Guard Corps is escalating down the ladder rather than up. Small craft, visual posturing, no missile lock, Staying outside legal engagement triggers. Fire first, and the footage reaches Tehran State Television within the hour, and the Revolutionary Guard Corps spends the next 6 weeks mining the strait faster than the task group can clear it. Lucas doesn't flinch. Her 5-inch Mark 45 gun trains on the lead Pacan at 6 miles, but the Pacan commanding officer doesn't realize that his vessel has been inside a Mark 45 firing solution from the moment his bow cleared the breakwater. Murphy's MH-60S lifts off with a crew chief manning the door gun. Roadrunner 6-4 orbits overhead with the door gun clearly visible, which represents the helicopter equivalent of rolling up your sleeves at a family reunion. Nobody's throwing punches yet, but the message is unambiguous. The Pacans run to 4 miles, then 3, then 2, at 1.7 miles, close enough to see faces through binoculars, far enough that no American captain has legal justification to fire first. The lead boat pulls into a hard starboard turn. The rest follow toward Bandar Abbas, 7 minutes of high-speed maneuvering, and nobody on either side puts ordnance in the water. On Lucas Combat Information Center display, 4 firing solutions quietly go cold, and somewhere in Bandar Abbas, 4 Pacan captains are going to explain to their commander why they turned away, a conversation that will proceed about as well as explaining to your spouse why you drove to the store and returned without the one item she requested. At 15:31, Tulsa's sonar paints a new contact at Grid Square Foxtrot 7 Charlie, the same grid square she cleared at 08:31 this morning, and Pioneer's captain stares at the return for 5 seconds before comprehending what he's observing. Iran is reseeding the lanes in real time while the task group finishes the clearance operation. Small craft, fishing dhows, the kind of vessels that can drop mines and disappear before anyone notices. The task group cannot clear and hold simultaneously. Clearing requires 4 platforms and 6 hours of daylight. Holding requires a fleet the Navy doesn't have in theater. He picks up the handset to Lucas. The cleared lane window is today. Get the first tanker through now. Come back tomorrow for the next clearance operation. Lucas broadcasts the cleared lane coordinates at 1619 on 4 frequencies. Every tanker master in the Gulf of Oman reads the waypoints within 60 seconds, and 7 minutes later, a Marshall Islands very large crude carrier named Pacific Meridian enters the lane. 298 meters of double-hulled steel, 2 million barrels of crude bound for Singapore, first commercial transit through the strait in 6 weeks, every navigation light burning, automatic identification system transponder broadcasting her identity, a captain who hasn't slept in 2 days holding the wheel personally. On Pacific Meridian's bridge, the first mate watches Lucas pass at 4 miles and keys the bridge-to-bridge radio with the only English he has prepared: "Destroyer, destroyer, thank you very much." Lucas Bridge Watch acknowledges with a 2-click microphone break. There's no line in the naval brevity code for "hell yeah," but the sentiment is understood. However, 4 miles north of where Pioneer worked the shallows, a 60-foot wooden dhow pushes out from the Keshem coast with fishing gear visible on the stern, and no flag flying, no radar signature worth tracking, no weapons worth a warning shot. She crosses into the cleared lane at fishing speed. 200 meters in, the first Mahan 7 mine slides off her stern through a cargo hatch and settles onto the sand, and the cycle begins again. The strait is clear for now, but tomorrow will bring the same deadly mathematics, the same wooden ship, the same young captain, and the same patient minds waiting in the dark water, because some missions never end, they just pause long enough to let the tankers through.